everybody, and welcome to Whimsically Wicked, a reading duet. My name is Haley, and I'm the whimsical half.
And my name is Darius, and I am the wicked half.
Welcome to Book 2, Part 2 of our series where we do full Unhinged recaps of the Zodiac Academy series.
Yep.
I have to say, I am drinking the tea now.
Yes!
I kind of liked the second half of this book.
Invested.
Yeah, y'all are reading this along with me. I only know what I know, and I'm doing full recaps of this, and y'all, if you struggled to get through the first book and a half, I'm telling you, eventually, you're in.
It picks, the problem with it too, and it's so, this is why I always make it akin to reality TV, because it's so addicting. It's just hard to look away.
You can't, and then as soon as you accept what it is, and just accept it for what it is,
yeah,
you're just fully in.
Yeah. Good. It doesn't take itself seriously.
No, it doesn't.
And you don't have to take it seriously. You're just here for the ride.
I'm here for the ride. I'm ready to go. So we had just ended off at our previous video, and if you haven't watched the previous ones, I would recommend going back. Darius was helping Tory try to contain her fire magic. They have a deal going on right now. So the deal is that Darius really needs for Tory and Darcy to come to a dinner with Darius with the celestial families. They want to meet them. Darius's dad realized that the attempt at just getting rid of them wasn't working.
Yeah, they were stubborn.
So now they're inviting them over, and Tory and Darcy don't want to go to this dinner. There's nothing in it for them. So they have a deal. Darius is helping Tory wield her fire magic. Darius is being nice to Tory, that's part of the deal, and Darcy and Tory will go to dinner with them. Now, I will just add, there's definitely some sexual tension between these two, Darius and Tory.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going on. Right before Tory walks away from Darius, they were kind of wielding fire magic, and it was getting kind of sexy, I guess.
Yeah, it was like the teaching you how to do the Gulf swing from behind vibes.
Yes, exact. Great comparison. So anyways, they're getting spicy, and then she starts to walk away after she's clearly teasing him, and he calls out to her that he's gonna pick her and Darcy up at 6 p.m. Their dresses are gonna arrive that morning, and let's just add, we trust Darius to get them good dresses.
Absolutely. He has impeccable fashion taste. There is no one can convince me otherwise.
Yeah. So we're in a brand new week, and we're starting off chapter 15 with Darcy's perspective. They're about to head to their first astrology class at the school. Darcy is currently, though, at her liaison session with Orion. And really the only thing to note is that, Darcy has not listened to a word that Orion is saying at this point. She's basically just undressing him with her eyes.
As she should.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. She's about to say goodbye, but Orion's I'm gonna walk you to your next class. And Darcy's why are you gonna do that? It's this whole super awkward situation that's going on between the two of them.
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. So they say goodbye. It's super awkward. It's tense, but they head over to Zenith's class. Now, Zenith is the one at the very, very beginning here who had got all of their elements and did all the testing for their elements. So she was one of the first professors that they met at the school. And that's who astrology is going to be taught by. We find out pretty much immediately that Zenith is the sponsor for the Almighty Sovereign Society.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Zenith is super embarrassing right off the bat. She's do you want strawberries and champagne? In front of the whole class. Absolutely mortifying. She's literally treating them like gods. And so, okay, we're getting a lore dump. The classes are really for lore dumps in this in this book. So here's a lore dump. Zenith is giving us a lot of information on the cosmic calendar. Now, I also had to do some research because I don't know anything about zodiac signs. So here's the research that I did so that we can all kind of understand together what's going on.
Oh, I'm excited.
So, you know that meme that goes around where boys will text their moms and be what time was I born at? And then the response from the mom is stop talking to her.
Yeah.
Because a girl's asking him for... That's what we're talking about. That's where this came from.
Yeah.
So astrology systems, this is what I've learned, are divided into 12 houses, and those positions depend on the time and location of your birth rather than your date. The houses of the horoscope represent different fields of experience wherein the energies of the signs and the planets operate. So, like, okay, so theoretically, you and I, we have very different zodiac signs, like polar opposite zodiac signs. But we could line up in our houses if the time and date put us in the same house or a planet was lined up the right way at the time and location that we were born.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so a natal chart basically explains all of the positions of the sun, the moon, and the planets at the time of your birth, and it makes basically predictions of the nature of who you are.
Okay.
That's all I know. So, in this class, we learn a couple of different bonds. What are you laughing at? Did I do it right?
No, you did great.
Thank you.
Everyone will be on at least the same page.
If not way ahead of me.
If not way ahead of you.
Okay, so we learn about 3 different types of bonds in this class. So the first one is a star bond. This is like beyond which stars are like a perfect match and enemies. These types of bonds are much more powerful than like a normal connection. There's 3 of them. There's nebula allies. So these are the most abundant of the star bonds. You see the most nebula ally bonds. They're basically friends who are just like soulmates. Not romantic, but it's like your soulmate in friend form.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the deepest type of friend you can find. And a nebula ally occurs when you are both born under the same conditions of the cosmic calendar. So that's the first bond. The second one are the Elysian mates. These are the most unpredictable of the star bonds. They are your perfect match, your other half, your soulmate, your twin flame, your one true love. They are star-bound to you in this world. So, some good lore on Elysian mates. If you come into contact with yours, then you will be so drawn together magnetically, it would be practically impossible to stop. But once you are drawn together, the stars are going to test you. So you're going to be tested in each other's presence for a long period of time. And as this is happening, the universe is becoming more and more volatile until you are finally presented with your divine moment. This is where your fate's going to be decided with your mate. So you're taken under the night sky and presented with the choice to either seal your bond together, and so that if that happens, your love ends up branded on you. You form like a silver ring around your irises in your eye. Or you can decide to part, and in that case, you become star-crossed, and you have a black ring in your iris. And then also, every celestial being in the universe will work against you and force you apart.
Yeah.
So these are a big deal. I also just want to add, Kylie makes a little comment here about her and Seth being mates, and everybody's kind of like, yeah.
No.
Sure.
Don't think so.
Yeah. Now, I do want to add one point, though, about this, is that it's very unlikely that your Elysian mate is going to be in the same order as you. So, something that happens especially with the heirs who have to keep their bloodlines pure, they actively work against trying to find their mate because they can't be with them anyways. And it becomes a huge problem if you find them because either you have to become star-crossed or be together. Like, there's only 2 options here.
Yep. And they're allegedly your perfect match.
Yeah, and we know who keeps their bloodlines pure.
Yep.
All of the heirs. So that's obviously going to be a problem. The foreshadowing is not subtle in these books.
No, and I don't know that it's trying to be.
No, it's definitely
I hope not.
And then our last type of bond is your astral adversary. So this is the rarest star bond, but this is a bond of intense hatred between 2 people. But not everyone possesses one, so this isn't for everybody. But they do tend to be of a star sign that clashes violently with your nature, and their natal charts will usually completely oppose yours in many ways. Often, though, these clashes end up fatal because, unlike Elysian mates, they are bound to clash over and over until one is destroyed. Crazy. I also kind of wonder if it's possible to have both.
What do you mean?
Like, be like you and I could be Elysian mates, but also adversaries.
Adversaries, you gotta like overcome that.
Yeah.
I thought there was an example like right after where it was like not that exactly, but maybe it's in a later book where they talk about the Elysian mates in some of the weird things that happen with them later.
Maybe. So during this lesson, Darcy and Tory mention that they think they could be Nebula allies, but they don't actually know when they were born. They were changelings, they went to the mortal world. They don't really know.
Wouldn't they have to be?
Zenith knows everything about them. So it doesn't matter if they have to be. Zenith knows because she is obsessed with them.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, Roxania, which is also known as Tory, was first to be born at exactly 3 minutes and 11 seconds past midnight on the 11th of June. Oh. Gwendolina, also known as Darcy, was the second born at 11 minutes and 3 seconds past midnight, which is a huge coincidence because apparently 3 and 11 are the strongest numbers in the universe.
Okay.
So I did some research on this. I'm a bit of a skeptic with most of these things. There is not a single clear answer on the internet.
I think it's just that they're both prime numbers.
Maybe. Most of the answers I found seems that 11 speaks to intuition and 3 speaks to creativity, and together they're very powerful or something.
Okay.
Maybe they're just prime numbers and I was overthinking it, but...
Yeah, I don't know. 7 would also technically be in there if they're prime numbers, too.
Okay,
for the record.
Got it. So that's pretty much the lore dump that we get during that class, but they're leaving, and Darcy realizes, she's almost back to the air tower at this point, and she realizes that she forgot her atlas in her bag. So she goes back, and tells Diego to, like, go back with them. Diego is walking with her. And just remember, they are not supposed to be going anywhere alone. There's like a nymph attack situation that's happening right now. They're not supposed to be alone.
The plot just pops up every once in a while.
Sometimes.
Rears its head and leaves.
And she's like, whatever, I'll be fine. I'm going to go back to the classroom alone. So she goes, she sees Zenith leave in her eagle form. So she's like completely alone. And as she's grabbing her bag, her phone and everything, her atlas or whatever, of course, she hears rattling, which is what a nymph does. That's the sound that a nymph makes. So there's a nymph here. Orion, during their last class, was like, hey, if you can't fight it, run. You're not strong enough.
Don't take on the nymph, ever.
So she does exactly that. She manages to get into the elevator, and her power is waning because the nymph is there, and that's what they do. And she uses whatever's left to, like, block it from coming in so that she can close the doors to the elevator. She goes down, and immediately as the door opens, Orion is there. What?
Handy.
So he's scolding her about going anywhere alone, obviously.
As he should, honestly.
Right. And she goes, well, I was almost attacked by a nymph. And what he should have said at that point was, that's why you don't go anywhere alone. But whatever. So Orion goes back up to check. He notices nothing there, but he does assume that the nymph, like, escaped through the roof. So he calls Nova to inform her. And then, because men don't really ask for consent or anything, he just picks her up over her shoulder and sprints her back to the air tower. And she's like, I can probably walk myself, thank you. So he's about to go help Nova and the rest of the FIB with the hunt for the nymph. Darcy tells him to be careful. There's a bunch of sexual tension going on because they like each other. And he's like, don't look at me like that. And she's like, what? And he's like, I'm your teacher.
This is one rule.
I know. And he's like, do you? And it's just like this super awkward situation. But the one rule that we have in Zodiac Academy, the only single rule.
Don't fuck the teacher.
Don't fuck the teacher.
Or the teacher's in trouble, not you. You're fine.
Yeah, whatever.
Which, you know, if it actually was a situation where I thought it was morally gray, I don't think it's morally gray in university, college, whatever. Then yes, the teacher should be the one in trouble. But in this case, that seems like equal responsibility to me.
Yeah.
I'm really hung up on the single rule. I don't know.
It's just this the only thing you can't do. You can literally try to kill each other.
No problem.
No problem.
Detention. Fuck the teacher, that teacher's getting repercussions.
Shunned.
Power shamed.
So we're moving back to Tory for chapter 16, and she is awake at 5 a.m. And if you know anything about Tory, she does not wake up at 5 a.m. But she does have something very important to attend to. So Darius, we know his room was destroyed in that fire, which is Tory's doing, but he doesn't know it's Tory. It's all like cleaned up by the maintenance crew, and he's going to be returning to that room the next morning, which means that she needs to do something about this now. Now, my favorite parts of these chapters, though, is the horoscopes, because she has her horoscope of the morning, which usually, like, we could probably do the horoscope and then not the rest of the chapter, because I feel like this is a really good indicator of what's about to happen. Tory's horoscope. Today will be a day of two halves. You will face great highs and turbulent lows. Beware a run-in with an Aquarius. Their wrath is unavoidable today, and you will have to weather the storm with your head held high. A Pisces may present further obstacles, but the way you handle them will determine the outcome of that interaction. Try to keep heart, though. In this day, in the end, you may see your plans falling together if you only manage to persevere. So she's ignoring that situation because she doesn't care. And she's also ignoring the situation with the nymph on the loose because she is also, once again, traveling alone before the sun is up.
Is she going into the Wailing Woods?
She's sure going into the Wailing
Yes,
Woods.
she is. I'd even...
She loves that place because she needs to go to where they buried the treasure that they stole from Darius's room.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she does manage to use some earth magic to dig it up, which we're very proud of. And there's really only a couple things that happen here. First, she grabs a few handfuls of gold. She's grabbing gold. We don't really know why. But as she withdraws her hand, there's also the magic dagger that's there. And we remember that there's some weird subplot going on with a dagger that speaks to them.
Yeah, I forgot about the dagger.
Yeah. And a bit of a spoiler alert, this is the only time the dagger is brought up in the rest of this book. It's still very much a subplot.
The fact that these are, like, this is a book. And I don't even know if the payoff for that is in the next one, to be honest. Because there's 9 core books.
Just always remember that there's a dagger sneaking around here somewhere and it gives weird vibes. So she ends up like kind of debating on leaving it, and then she ends up deciding to take it, and everything's fine, I guess. We'll talk about the dagger in 2 to 3 books.
I think the irony of the dagger is you actually have to like some people before it matters. So it might be that far off because you had to redeem someone.
You got a lot of characters to redeem right now.
Yeah.
So as she's leaving the Wailing Woods, she hears a howl, and we knew Seth was coming. Seth is an Aquarius. So she's having a run-in with her Aquarius. Seth is howling. You hear the howls of all of the wolves, because the way that the wolves recharge their power is running around in the middle of the night during a full moon.
Yep.
So she starts running. Seth's white wolf paws slam into her chest, knocks her down. He starts licking her. It's very weird. And so he ends up turning back into a human, naked, still laying on her.
Probably still licking.
Yeah. So really, like, they start talking shit because she's like, hey, get off of me. Nothing really of note happens during this conversation. He then turns back into a wolf after telling her that she's lucky that they need her for dinner on Saturday, and we're not going to hurt you because we need you, so she's lucky. And right after telling her that, he knocks her back down, goes back to wolf form, and pees on her.
Oh, yeah.
So she finally makes it back to House Ignis, and in that 15 seconds, all over Fae book already is Seth peeing on her. It's a whole situation. And she showers for like an hour. Then she heads up to Darius's. All she does here is she breaks in, she puts a coin on his pillow, then she goes over to Milton's room. And in Milton's room, she pushes a handful of coins beneath his mattress, and then like quickly heads to Cardinal Magic. So that's all she does.
Okay.
Seems like she's trying to blame Milton for, like, she's trying to frame him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like with just a couple coins.
Yeah. We do go to Cardinal Magic quickly. Apparently nothing of note happens in this class because the only thing that we get to see about this class is that Orion puts another one of his fun little quotes on there, and all it says is, "You are not friends." And we have no idea what that means, but whatever. We do go to tarot class, though, with Washer, who is filling in for Astrum permanently because Astrum is dead. Once again, plot. There's plot. Now, this lesson does get a little bit weird. They're doing some tarot card reading, and the card they end up pulling is Astrum's card that they had. Now, this is never explained, but they pull it from this random tarot deck. So, yes, we do actually have to read this again to just remind you all what it says. I made a mistake, and now my time is up. The shadow has discovered me, and there is no hope for me to escape their wrath. The answers you seek are hidden between Leo and Libra. Don't trust the flames. Now, up until now, we have always thought the Libra and Leo mean Darius and Orion.
Yeah.
That is a huge mislead. Because it's not. Turns out there's actually a constellation map on the wall in the classroom, and there's like a secret little drawer between it that they notice. So Tory gets up and she sneaks over. We're not sending Darcy for this. Darcy is very clumsy. She cannot pull this off.
No.
So Tory gets up, she goes over to the drawer, and she picks some things out. There are 2 things in the drawer. One was a photograph of a man in his 50s. He had a handlebar mustache, a bald head, and looked absolutely ripped despite his age and is in a smart gray suit. The second one was another card from Astrum's deck. It showed a man who looked kind of like the Pope, wearing a red robe and a golden headdress, while sitting on a chair and holding a golden staff in his hand. It was called the Hierophant. Now, if you're a tarot card reader, maybe you know what this means. I have no idea. But Sophia does pop in to say that the Hierophant stands for convention and tradition. It can be a sign of marriage or arrangement, but can also mean a teacher or a counselor who will give advice, assistance, or aid in learning. This means absolutely nothing to me. That could mean literally anything. But it did have words on the back of it that does help a little bit more. It says, ask him what happened to Clara Orion 4 years ago. We assume that they're telling them to ask about the man in the picture. Ask the man in the picture about Clara Orion 4 years ago. They pretty much agree that it's like impossible to track down a random man that they don't know. And more not so subtle foreshadowing, they say, unless fate decides to deliver him to us, I guess that's the end of it. I wonder if fate might deliver them to us. So after this, the girls go and pick up a package in a discreet black box and take it over to Terra House. We all know what discreet black boxes mean. Most of the girls listening to this knows what a discreet black box means.
Fun time.
It is what you're thinking, but it's also kind of not what you're thinking. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't remember this.
It's so good. Okay, so the girls are definitely in their pranking era right now. If you don't remember, at the end of the last little, like, part 1 of this book 2, they're basically like, we have to find a way to prank them without using power because we, like, don't know how to control it right now, so we're using our wits. So they head over to Caleb's room at this point. Now, House Terra is kind of on, like, a little hill, and it's got, like, their houses and windows, and for some reason, this just reminds me of the Teletubbies house. So that's all I picture.
Okay.
If you know what I'm talking about. That's what I think House Terra looks like. I'm sure it's way cooler than that. So they find his window and they're able to get in. They actually see him walk into the room and he's like sweaty from Pitball tournament, so they're admiring him and whatever.
We can still acknowledge that the airs are really pretty despite the fact they're a bunch of douche canoes.
Yes. And a boy coming from a sweaty, dirty practice.
Fine.
Not upset. So they stare at him while he strips, and then he goes into the shower, and they get into the window, and they use their air power to blow up a giant Pegasus sex doll and put it on his bed.
I remember this.
So they leave, and for chapter 17, we're actually going to get Caleb's perspective. So he's in the shower. He's thinking about how he hasn't actually fed from Tory in a little while. because it has been a while. He kind of gave her some reprieve after the whole situation, and he's been using the airs to help him regenerate his power. But he's like, I should try Tory again.
Snack.
And then as soon as he's thinking about that, he's also thinking about Tory naked. So there's also that. He's obviously walks out into his room and sees the giant Pegasus. And like he's pissed, I get it, but also instead of like popping it with a needle and just letting it deflate,
yeah,
he tries to push it out of his room fully blown, and he ends up like pushing it down the whole hallway there. So now everybody is watching him. And he's like trying to push out the door, but as he's pushing it out the door, he kind of like
he's gyrating.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yes, a lot of it. And so now that is all over Facebook. So now everybody's making fun of Caleb. Successful prank.
Yes.
Great.
Also, great catchphrase.
So true.
Which I don't think we've hit yet, but the catchphrase is great.
Okay. So now into chapter 18 with Darcy. It's the morning of the next day. She's very happy with her and Tory's efforts of their pranks. And she's also pondering her new hair color because she still hasn't decided what color she's going to dye her new hair. She kind of starts to think yellow, which is weird, but whatever. She's heading into the orb for breakfast, and she sees Seth and his pack harassing Diego about something. Diego's kind of like looking really small and really sad, and Seth is kind of screaming at him. And so she goes to try and help him. Caleb like wraps his arms around her, being like, no, Diego started it because he refused to bow to Seth, which is not really starting a fight.
Yeah, that's Seth's version of starting a fight, I guess.
Yeah.
In his little narcissistic brain. I still love him, it's fine.
Yeah, so Darcy's like, no, I'm going to help. And as she goes to try and help, Seth swings back his elbow for a punch and, like, elbows Darcy in the face with her cheekbone. And so then Diego's, like, scrambling away. He's running away. And then Orion pops in, and his voice screams, get the fuck to class. And he starts threatening to take points away. So everyone's, like, scrambling. Then Orion smashes Seth's face right into the mirror, and he strips Seth of that braided hair bracelet that he stole from, or that he made from Darcy's hair that he cut off or ripped out. And he's like, I'm sick of your games. Darcy and Orion make their eye contact. She comments how his eyes were blazing with fierceness she didn't understand. But obviously he's like going all protective boy on her. We also did just learn about Elysian mates. And it's either a mislead or it's like really obvious, or it's like really obviously a mislead. Because they're making all the right comments for it.
Yeah.
So one of my theories is that maybe Darcy and Orion are either Elysian mates, or I'm gonna be pissed if they're not, because like the comments, I'll continue to share them here, but the comments are like, it's magnetic, I can't push them away.
Yeah, I
like,
can't stop. I don't think that's necessarily supposed to be a surprise.
Okay. So I'm guessing.
The other one is. That one's.
Right. So anyways, Orion's having his meltdown. And after they're leaving, Tyler Corbin pops out and asks Caleb if his Pegasus form turns Caleb on. And then Sophia also turns. Now, like, the Pegasus are all making a huge joke of Caleb and his Pegasus situation. So Caleb starts sprinting on the ground towards them as they're flying off, and Darius joins his friends and follows them in the sky in his dragon form. It's a whole situation.
I would just like to point out that there's still a point system in this school.
I haven't heard a single thing about any, like, I don't know what the rankings are right now.
I don't know what you get for the points. I just see Orion taking points from Air because of Seth being a douche, but like I don't know.
I've also read like 800 pages of story at this point, and I'm 4 weeks in to this school.
Yeah.
Maybe 5, I don't know. But they are about to head to class, but Diego is like moping. He's really sad. Orion also didn't give him his hat back. He stole his hat back from Seth and then never gave it back to Diego. And Diego's like really sad because his mi abuela made it for him. And I don't. Here's the thing. He's really defeated. He decides that he's gonna skip class and he like goes back into the air, like the house or whatever. And they don't really see him again for a while. And like it feels like there's something going on with Diego. Like you're concerned for him or whatever. It feels like something's about to happen with Diego. I don't know.
Diego was getting viciously bullied.
He is. He also, I told you I was drinking the Zodiac Academy tea.
Yeah.
He also feels like he's just not cut out for the school.
No, he's really not.
You know, like he should be going to a different academy. I'm not making excuses for the bullying, but it's just it
culturally that's just not a good fit.
I'm ingrained in the culture now. I can't stop it. This is this very different opinion that I had in book 1.
We are Fae and we fight for what we want, and Diego ain't fighting hard enough.
Yeah. So anyways, he's like, you guys are super strong. I don't think I can put up with this anymore. I don't understand how you do it. And also, like, Sophia and him aren't really talking at this point, but I don't think anything's wrong. I don't know. Whatever. They end up heading to their air elemental class where Professor Perseus was there and is like super flustered at this point. Max is being a super huge nuisance. He's chasing a girl. Seth was being moody. He's perched on a rock. His pack is like nuzzling him and pawing at him and trying to make him feel better. And they're all in like Fae form too. Like it looks weird. They're just like pawing and nuzzling at this man. But whatever. Kylie seems pissed about this, but like she can't do anything because it's Seth's pack and their pack is very close.
Yeah, you don't get involved in that.
No. But Tory and Darcy do actually decide to pay attention to this class because they do actually get some help from Perseus. They learn how to create these like wind and air shields around them. They're able to do it like with warm air so they can keep themselves warm, but they can also make them super solid and keep people out. And so this is like a big thing for them to learn.
This is a good unlock for some advancement.
Yeah, and then Seth also does end up coming over to Darcy, and they note that she has like a bruise on her cheek from obviously getting elbowed by Seth. So he shoots towards Darcy, and she like immediately summons vines around him, like he's trying to attack her, and she's freaking out. But he's able to like touch the bruise on her face that ends up healing it. So he gets the vines off of himself easily with his own magic. But she's like, why did you heal me? And he goes, well, his fight was with Diego was Fae to Fae. And then he kind of like loses his words and he just like walks away. It doesn't make any sense. More pranks. Darcy later starts to plan to use the Aquarius Moonstone. And this was that moonstone that she got in the first half of this book to give Seth fleas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she heads over to Air Tower. Now, this is a big moment for Darcy. She doesn't get trusted with these missions very often because she's the clumsy one, so this is huge for her. So she goes to the Air Tower. She tries to wait for Seth's pack to leave because all she needs to do is get some of Seth's hair because that's part of the like instructions to give him fleas. So she just waits for Seth's pack to leave so that she can break into his room and get the hair. But they don't leave. So she ends up going into the common room and she sits down in an armchair near the window so that she's like can wait them out. And she was like, should I go see Diego? I don't know, he's sad. Ends up not to. Instead of the pack leaving, she hears whines and whimpers and realizes that they're coming into the common room. And she just hides further into the chair so they can't see her, and she starts eavesdropping. There's a conversation that happens between Seth and some of his packmates. One of them's name is Ashanti, and she wants to cheer him up. And she wants to cheer him up in the way that y'all are thinking she wants to cheer him up. So eventually, more whimpering from a bunch of wolves, and she says, maybe this will make you feel better. And then all Darcy hears is, like, moans of pleasure and stuff. So she starts to hear all the clothes coming up, and, like, exactly what you think is about to happen is happening with this pack. So now she's like, what do I do? So she kind of starts like assessing the risk here. She's like, I'm not listening to this. So she just gets up and leave, and nobody seems
to care or notice.
To care or notice. But because now they're in the common room, she's like, actually, great. This is perfectly fine. I can go into Seth's room and grab the hair.
Yeah.
So she goes in, and it was open anyway, so she just walks in. Seth's room is like massive. It has a single large bed with two slightly smaller beds on either side, but they're also still big beds. It's just like a lot of beds.
For common room activities.
Yes. It's pretty much like described as a brothel.
Yeah.
That's her first instinct. But she was also not able to find any hair. Apparently, he keeps it very clean. So she's getting frustrated, and all of a sudden she hears giggles from the hallway. They're bringing their party to this room. So she slips into the closet and pretty much proceeds to hear an entire orgy going on. It's a whole thing. There's a lot of that happening for a couple pages, so I'll spare you all those details. After a while, someone outside is like, great shower time. And so Darcy's like, oh my God, this is my moment. Like, get me out of here. So she's about to leave. She's like grabbing the handle, and she just hears Darcy Vega. Seth has caught her. And he's like, hey, what are you doing in my room? And she says, well, I came by to thank you for healing me. And I knocked, but it was just open, so... And then he starts nuzzling her neck, and she's like, no, what are you doing? I don't want to be part of this. And he says, well, we have a problem. Now, okay, ultimately, he basically tells her that he accidentally made her a part of his pack by telling her she is an Omega. And everybody... And so it was like, remember when I did this? And she's like, yeah. I looked... I have a Kindle, and I have a search function in a Kindle, and I looked in the first 2 books where it was that he did this. He did not do this on screen.
Like, he probably didn't do it.
Right?
He's probably just lying.
Seth. I didn't even consider that.
He's probably just gaslighting her.
Because there was, like, not a single page where he told her she was his Omega. But anyways, apparently he did that. And basically he's like, I can't stop it. I'm your alpha, and as you being in my pack wants to please me, and you are now part of my pack. And now you're in the bottom of the pack, you actually have to be initiated. And she's like, yeah, great for you, dude. No, thank you. And he's like, well, you need to please me or challenge me. And she was like, but she does realize this is her chance because he's getting closer to her now, and she needs his hair. So they're getting close, and he starts like hugging. He really likes the nuzzling.
Like the dog thing where they put their face on your face.
Yeah, he likes that. So he's nuzzling, and she's like, and she just like pulls his hair, which he seems to really like.
Yeah, and he sounds like a girl who would like his hair pulled.
Yeah. And he's like, it's just one night, and then I can forget about you. And she's like, I would rather never have sex again than have sex with you. And leaves. And no, it wasn't perfect, but Darcy completed a mission.
She did it. She had to listen to an entire orgy.
Yeah.
But she did it.
She also gets this, like, satisfaction that apparently until he sleeps with her, he's going to be, like, uncomfortable and sad. And she's never going to sleep with him.
No.
So there's also that.
She's hot for teacher.
Yeah.
I would just like to point out that we've done, like, 5 hours. No, we've probably done, like, 6 hours recording for this. And I just realized that for the chapter titles where it has, like, their name and their Zodiac sign.
Yeah.
It also has their elements.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, oh, this one only has 2. And then I remember that the twins had all 4.
I did notice that in the books. It's a little bit different on the Kindle, but it does have it. That it's helpful.
I'm the least observant person in the world.
I know, right? It took me a book and a half to do that, too. Now, we do get a glimpse of Seth's POV right after Darcy leaves. Really only, like, a couple things of note happen here. Seth is trying to distract himself from whenever the hell he accidentally made Darcy part of his pack. He's, like, thinking about this and how upset he is. Apparently it's legit.
Oh.
But, like,
Maybe he gaslit himself.
I don't know. I'm being gaslit.
Someone's gaslighting.
So he's like upset. So he's trying to distract himself by banging another girl in his pack named Alice. Biggest thing of note for her is that she has big breasts. Then Seth kind of starts to get itchy, and as he's like itching nonstop, his pack starts to notice, and they're like, "Oh no, dude, we don't want that. We don't want any part of that." And especially before midterms, which I have not seen them take a single test.
I didn't even know they had midterm.
I think that's the only time it was mentioned. So we also find out that Seth really hates being alone. He's not good at being alone.
No, that's all. He just had an orgy. That seems to be on brand.
Yeah, so this has been fun, but we are about to enter the dinner party. This is where I start to like get excited about this book because this is crazy. This is fun. So it's dinner time. We're starting this from Tory's perspective. It's chapter 20. She's waiting for Darcy to come over because Darius is going to be there to pick them up any minute. They both, though, agreed we are not wearing the dresses that Darius sent. We are defying him at every potential opportunity, so they chose their own. They still look great. Darius agrees when he shows up. He's like, ooh, I think I like this one better. Darcy does text Tory saying that she ran into Orion at the Orb, and apparently Orion's coming with them. We knew that they'd have to, so they can just meet them at the Orb and they'll go from there. Tory does allude really quickly to the fact that she knows about Darius and Orion's bond. She's like, yeah, I know about the bond. And he was like, wait, how did you know that? And she goes, you just told me, which we know was told by Jerry, but they're doing their little thing. So they head down to meet them. Now, as a regular trend with this book, we cannot simply walk to the Orb without a couple events happening. So there are a few events that happen. First, they run into Milton. Tory had sent him an expensive watch anonymously. She's obviously trying to frame him. She's trying to frame Milton for Darius's room. So now he has an expensive watch. And that watch is like, he couldn't buy that on his own.
No.
So she's hoping that Darius notices that and sees that he's like kind of
flush with cash magically.
Darius does clock it. Marguerite also sees Tory and Darius walking together, and she's very upset about it because she just got dumped by Darius. And Darius definitely like starts to make it look like they're together. He kind of puts his hand on Tory's lower back, then around her shoulder, and he tries to convince Tory that it actually would make Tory's life easier if everyone thought they were a couple. And she's like, okay, he's trying to be nice to me, but like, don't overdo it. This is kind of a lot right now.
Yeah, and you also just tried to murder me like last weekend.
Yeah, but Tory is also kind of getting the like, don't get used to him being nice because she likes nice Darius. She's feeling that, but she's like, this isn't how he is. So like, don't let yourself. She's got her guards up. Yeah. So they do find Orion and Darcy. The rest of the heirs then also come over. Everyone's dressed to the nines, as everyone's got their tuxes on. And Seth does come by. He's doing lots of scritches. He's scritching a lot. Caleb is actually the only one to approach both of the girls at this point, though. He does give Darcy a little kiss on the cheek, and he kisses Tory on the neck. Tory like feels energy run along her spine and she tenses. And Orion clocks this happening too, and he's like, and then Darcy also notices it, which she gives Tory a huge eye roll. This is about to be messy. So they get sprayed with stardust and they arrive. Tory stumbles, she's caught by Darius. Darcy, our resident klutz, falls on Lance completely. And they approach a massive building that like looks pretty much like a massive spa hotel. And we know that this is Darius's residence, but the girls are like, oh my god, they're gawking at this place. Caleb does make a comment though, like, guys, your house is bigger. And the Vega twins are like, we have a house? We didn't know that. We always thought it was just money. They get to the house, and the butler starts making introductions for Lionel, a crux. Tory refers to him as Daddy a crux. and Catalina a crux, which is Mommy a crux.
Mm-hmm.
We already kind of know a bit about these two from Darius's point of view. Like, Catalina is kind of a mannequin with a fake smile, and Lionel sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Tory does want us to know about Catalina's boobs. Apparently, they're very nice.
Okay.
She very much likes Lance. She wants to flirt with Lance, and all of the rest of the heirs also think Mommy a crux is hot. So,
And has a thing for Lance.
yeah. Now, this is kind of where things start to get rocky. There's like a huge introduction of the other heirs, like they introduce them. And Lance, these are just formalities. They already know each other. And then they introduced Tory and Darcy as Roxania and Gwendolina. They corrected them. They were like, nope. And Lionel's are like, why are your mortal names? The king, the Savage King gave you guys these names. Why would you change them? And Tori's like, to my understanding, the king was kind of a whack job, so I'm
Not
good
a
with
problem.
mine.
Also, their kids have really basic names.
Yes.
You've got Seth, Alex, and Caleb. Darius is the only one that's like kind of not normal.
Roxania and Gwendolina are
still
over
out
the
of
top.
left field.
Yeah. They are.
Their other kid's name is Max.
Yeah. I will say, though, I start to really like the girls in this situation. Tory and Darcy sass Lionel so hard. Basically, Tory's like, if you like the idea of addressing us by the different names, why don't I just call you Barry instead? And that was just really awkward. Catalina starts like tittering a laugh to break silence. Lionel's like, okay, Tory and Darcy, whatever. So Darius does pull Tory aside and is like, hey, watch yourself. Well, actually, he says, watch yourself, Roxy, which we know how we feel about him calling her Roxy. And Tori's like, hey, that's not my name. Did you not hear? I said Tory. Whatever. They head into a huge parlor that contained the entire Celestial Council. So we've got the three other counselors. High Lord Tiberius Rigel. We know him as Max's dad. He seems to protect Max from this, like, his stepmom, and like fight for Max to be on the throne, even though he doesn't have to because he's a bastard child. Yeah. So he greets Max super happily. He looks kind of like the same as Max, just minus the mohawk. Then we have High Lady Antonia Capella. That's Seth's mom. She's got like brown flaked copper hair with pale gray eyes, and she pounces on Seth and gives him a big wolfy kiss. So yeah, she's described as intelligent and cunning. Then we have High Lady Melinda Altair. Like golden hair, pink lipstick, curly bob, 50s dress on. You kind of know the vision there. So they all exchange pleasantries and go over their preferred names again, because they call them Roxana and Gwendolina. And when offered a drink, Tori's like, get me a shot of tequila. Darcy wants a rum and coke, and they like knock him back immediately. They are not professional in this setting. Lionel mentions how Tory has been getting help from Darius for her fire magic, and he's like, you guys are banging. And Darcy was like, nope, they are not. And Lionel's like, well, good, because he's already betrothed to Darius's cousin, Mildred, who will be at the party tonight. Yay. Mildred. The last important part of the meeting is basically of their ascent to the throne. This lasts like 4 seconds. Tory and Darcy are like, we don't want it. And they're like, oh, really? And they're like, yeah, keep it. All we want is to learn how to use our magic, claim our inheritance, and be left the fuck alone. Council's like, great, let's go to the party. This ends in Caleb pulling Tory aside to get a drink.
Tasty. It has been a while since he's used her as a juice box.
I know. And they've had this like weird, well, Tory wasn't really forgiving him right off the bat. She was still mad.
Yeah, they just have tension.
Mm-hmm. We're going to start with Darcy here at the party. So Darcy and Tory enter and everyone starts clapping, but there is one person clapping well more than the others. And he parts the crowd, approaches them, and what do they see? They see a huge man with a handlebar mustache, bushy mutton chops, and a bald head. Fate has walked right into their hands, and we see the guy who was on the photo from Astrom's little card thing.
Mm-hmm.
The actual phrase, "I couldn't believe he just landed right in our laps," was actually used after the intense foreshadowing.
We love self-aware.
So he greets them with the phrase, "Forgive my language, your majesties, but ripen my grapes and call me Tallulah. It is an absolute honor to meet you both." So obviously they're like, "Hey, do you know Jerry?" um, and apparently Geraldine is his daughter, and he says, "My daughter has told me simply everything about you. Everything. But golly brambles, where are my manners? You must think I'm an absolute rottermouth and that I'm terribly impolite for not even giving you my name yet." So Geraldine's father's name is Hamish, and he introduces himself, and they basically both agree to ask him some questions later to find him again. Lionel is really creepy during this party. They basically notice him staring at them, and as somebody walks in front of their view of him, he disappears. Darcy also notices Orion slipping through the crowd. Catalina is around, and they're basically just people watching. But they do hear a dark girls, and Max is holding both of their shoulders, and he's like, "Let's have some fun." He has a really easy time steering them from the crowd because of his magic. He can just control them. So he takes them to a small lit smoking room where all the heirs are there. Seth is still scratching. Darius is just taking shots. Caleb lets Darius know that Mildred is here. And Tory gives him shit for it, but Darius is very touchy about the subject of Mildred. And so he starts to glare at her with his dragon eyes, and she was like, "I'm leaving." And as they're leaving, they hear, "I thought you scurrying in here, I thought I saw you scurrying in here, hubbykins." And we meet Mildred. Mildred is a very tall girl, and her teeth are described as protruding from her lower jaw. Her hair is in a massive brown frizz with a pink bow, matching eyeshadow, and orange dress. And also, she's awful. It's kind of like ugly stepsister from Cinderella vibes, but I thought we kind of grew out of that, but apparently not.
Yeah, to my understanding, this was a direct result of inbreeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. Because there's something up.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. And she tries to kiss him, and he's like, "No, I said no kissing till the wedding." Obviously not trying to kiss his cousin, which fair, honestly. And she starts harassing the Vega twins, being like, "He's not going to sleep with you because he's saving himself for marriage," which makes literally everybody burst out laughing because obviously not. So Mildred is getting pissed off, and she starts to breathe fire at them. So Tory and Darcy finally get to do their first form of defense magic, the air shield that they just got taught. So they deflected the fire as she tries to roar at them. And after that, the girls are like, "We're leaving. I don't want to be here. I want more champagne because I'm going to need more if I'm going to survive this night." They almost immediately run into some man named Gustav Volpecula, who he's talking to him, he's asking questions, he's being sympathetic to their situation, and the two girls are basically telling him about how awful it was, what they did to them at school, and all of those things, and they're just having this conversation. As they're talking through this, though, Orion bursts over, tells Gus to get the fuck out of there, and he explains to the girls that Gus is a Tunisian fox and a reporter. Fox lore. Foxes are sly, they get under your defenses, befriend you, and then draw the truth from your lips. So, he's a reporter. Orion is assuming that Lionel set them up for this to get a reporter in there to make them look bad. But he is thankful because they didn't tell him anything of importance or that the world didn't already know.
Also, it would mostly just make their kids look like dicks.
Yeah, right? And so then he just leaves to go fox hunting. So he's going to find the fox to get rid of him. They do see Hamish, though, heading to the bathroom. So they decide to try and follow him. And they run into him in the corridor. He's going to the bathroom, so they start to pretend to look at this painting of a dragon eating a Pegasus or something. It's weird.
Their poor child.
I know. So Hamish, yeah, like literally Darius's younger brother is a Pegasus.
Poor Xavier.
Poor Xavier. So Hamish comes out and he looks at the painting. He's like, it's a filthy insult to the Solarian order that, and like dragons aren't better than other orders and all of those things. Um, and Tory and Darcy agree. And then Hamish says that they're slippery wangadoodles, if you ask me. Tory then probes him about Orion and Darius, and he shares that the two families have always worked closely. Then they ask him if he knew about Clara Orion. He's like, this is classified information, but because they're the true heirs, he trusts them. He wants to tell them everything. So after the Savage King and the Queen were murdered, Hamish joined them for many years. He was with the FIB, and his last case was Clara's disappearance. He did the investigation for a while, and it led him to the Acruxes, since it was the last time she was seen alive. So he went to like the Acruxes, he was trying to investigate them, he was trying to ask them questions, and he was never able to get any information about Clara Orion from the Lionel or Stella, which is Clara and Orion's mother. I do want to point out here, Hamish mentions that the Savage King and Queen were murdered, which is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, because before it was a nymph attack, wasn't it?
Yes, and like I always assumed that they were murdered and it was more to do with it, but everyone in Solaria just always thought it was like a mysterious death.
Mm-hmm.
It was only Astrum that was like, no, I think that they were killed by someone.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a big deal that Hamish is like,
murder.
He's murdered. So chapter 22, Tory is not happy about this party. She's hanging out. It's very dull and boring. Everyone's just here to keep up appearances, which is like not Tory's vibe. Tory's a real human. So also, Tory still hasn't eaten. She's like still hungry. She's trying to eat some of the trays of food that are going by, but these are also like rich food. And she's like, not her vibe. Again, this whole party is not her vibe.
No.
So she's just continuing to drink. But Darius does approach her, and he clearly notices she's having a terrible time. They do exchange some discussion about how the like other half live, and Tori's like frightfully dull. It's awful. Like, you guys are the terrible. I would way rather what I do. And she mentions how Darius wears his mask here, like in front of his family and the heirs, way more than he does anywhere else. And he argues, it's not a mask that I wear. This is what I was born to, and this will all I will ever be. She asks if he ever wants to rebel against it, and he says all of the time. So she says, prove it. He asks her if she wants to dance, and she pretty much says no, and goes to get more drink. But as she's getting more of a drink, she hears a voice who had seen that interaction and says, I don't think I've ever seen someone ditch Darius like that before. And they both start talking shit about dragons. He's got like kind of a familiar face, this guy that she's talking to. Really dark hair, and he seems like quiet, but she kind of likes him. Like, they're joking about how she might be a rabbit order because she's rabbity, and they're just like having a really nice time. So he says, like, yeah, I'm only really supposed to show my face for like a quick hour or so and then leave, so like I'm not really having fun either. She introduces herself as Tory, and he does the same. And it is Xavier, Darius's younger brother.
I love Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my favorite supporting characters in all of this. He's so cute.
Xavier's so cute. And so Xavier's like, you don't really like Darius, do you? And Tory kind of like looks at him because he's got a playful smile on. And she's like, Darius is right behind me, isn't he? And he's like, yup. And then she insults Darius very loudly so Darius can hear. But Xavier smiles and tells Darius that Tory is starving and to help her find something to eat, and then Xavier leaves. But she just she can't. Darius takes her to get something to eat, and she just can't deny this like pull towards him, even though she hates him. So, anyways, they're going through the hallways, and Darius thanks her for cheering Xavier up. And she doesn't really know why. We do. It's because Xavier's a Pegasus, and his father hates him for it. Darius takes her to the kitchen and asks the chef to make them sandwiches, and she's given a sandwich. She says thanks to the chef, to the help, and he was like, "What do you mean? Why are you saying thank you to the help? Why would you do that?" And she was like, what do you mean? That's not an absurd thing to do. So this somehow sets off a rant that goes on about how Tory thinks everybody is boringly predictable and everyone there is only concerned with what others think of them and not having fun and they're not living their lives, which, like, they have a point. Like, everyone's very pretentious here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Darius asks her if she wants to see something. Now, you remember it was right before the our last end of our last episode when Darius was trying to help Tory with her magic. She ended up wielding this big motorbike out of fire, right? Remember, Tory loves bikes. Tory very much loves bikes. So he brings her to his whole ass motorbike collection. And now here we get a little bit of information on the relationship between the human world and Solaria because they seem like mortal world bikes. Apparently their leaders do trading. But this is mostly because the Fae can coerce humans into giving them things for, like, very cheap. So they get bikes. But then the bikes' logos get changed a little bit, so it's like Hondusa, Harley Dragonstone, and stuff like that. Tory does comment on the morality of that, like, you're just taking from the humans, and he was like, we use our power to take what we want from them, just like we do in the Fae world. Like, it's not different. This is the same. And she's like, okay, well, like, at least you're equal, I guess, in the treatment of other living beings. And then Tory goes off, like, have you made any mods on this? What have you done with it? And he was like, they don't need mods. They're top of the line. And Tori's like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know how to do it. Whatever. He does offer to let her ride them, but she's, like, drunk, and there's, like, a dress on a motorbike situation that would be really uncomfortable.
Just oddly responsible for Tory.
Yeah. So she's like, no, I'm good. And then right after that, they hear Lionel's voice. And he says, I told you to stay at the party, Darius. And then also says, if you're going to fuck the Vega girl, at least do it on your own time. And Tory has none of this. She's like, ew, don't talk about me like that. I'm a person. I'm not just, like, here to be used and then dropped when he has to marry someone else. Like, that's insulting to me. So that starts to piss Lionel off, and they, like, keep going at it. And the kicker is when she calls him an oversized iguana with a superiority complex wrapped in an expensive suit.
Oh man.
So Darius is like, stop. And then Darius is also now, like, to Lionel, just being like, it's not worth it, dude. Don't, like, she's not worth
She'll
it.
just keep going.
Yeah, I told you, like, she wasn't raised right, like, all of that stuff. He's kind of trying to, like, get Lionel to calm down because he doesn't want Lionel to freak out. Finally, Lionel agrees, but then he says, and it would seem she isn't the only one looking for a lesson in respect. Come with me. And he takes Darius and leaves. And based on what we know about how Lionel treats Darius, we're worried about him a little bit.
Yeah, that's not going to end well.
Yeah, like, this is obviously why Darius wanted so bad for Tory to behave.
Yeah, because Lionel's gonna take it out on Darius.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it definitely doesn't excuse the way Darius treats Tory, but, like, it gives you the additional context to, like, why she probably, yeah. Chapter 23, we're back to Darcy. Darcy's, like, going through the hallways and trying to get outside. She wants some fresh air. She's also not having a fun time at this party. But as she's doing so, she hears a voice. This is a little bit of time later. And it says, if you learn to behave appropriately for once, we wouldn't have to keep going through this cycle, would we? It was Lionel. She hides immediately, and then she sees Lionel step out of the door, and Darcy realizes he has, like, blood on his cuffs, and just before he does, he sees it. So then he starts to scream, now I also have to change, blah, blah, blah. Shortly after, Orion and Darius exit. So we know what happened in there. That all sucks. Now Darcy is kind of learning about what happened. So she hears a few pieces of the conversation between Orion and Darius. Darius offers up his blood for Orion to drink to like regain power, but Orion's like, no, I'm good. You also have to go back to the party. It's not worth it. Also, I barely used mine. Whatever. Second, Orion mentions how, like, well, I'll always be there for you anytime he hits you and he touches you. So now Darcy knows that Darius is being abused by his father. And then Orion says, this won't be like it forever. Soon you'll be able to wield the shadows yourself. Ooh.
Dun dun dun.
So Darcy basically learns a little bit about Darius and Lionel's relationship. And Orion is still there. Darius walks off back to the party. Of course, Darcy, our resident klutz, accidentally drops her clutch. It makes a sound. Orion hears it, and he coerces like whoever's there to come out this second. So Darcy goes out. They're just like staring at each other. Like Orion is processing that Darcy just heard way too much, and Darcy's like, "I just got caught." And then they hear, "Hello, my shining star. What in Solaria are you doing here with one of the Vega twins, Stella?" Orion's mother, a woman in her 50s, bob of a hair, black fitted dress, and she was obviously a vampire. She introduces herself as Stella, and she's like, ooh, my goodness. I love Tory's blood and I want it. Not Tory, Darcy. So Stella is like obsessed with Darcy's blood. She really wants it. She can like taste the power. Orion's like, no, you can't have your blood. She's my source. And then his mother makes this weird comment about how they can share sources and whatever. This is like a weird relationship. So Orion is like trying to protect Darcy and keep Stella away from her. Darcy's like, you know what? I'll just leave. This is weird. But Orion like doesn't let her and pulls her back. And so then Stella's like, oh my god, I love the hunt. Next time, let her go a little bit further and then pull her back. It's like gross.
Orion's mom is not okay.
Yeah. And then Stella starts talking about how, like, she's disappointed that Orion's her son. She misses Clara. Orion's dad always loved hunting, and Orion is boring now that he's a teacher. So this is, like, just kind of continues for a while. And she ends up saying to Darcy is that the Savage King's blood runs in your veins, so does a predator in my baby boys. If he wasn't bound by so many rules and consequences, he'd chase your pretty neck all around this house and drain you dry where he caught you. So he's like bound by some promises, but we don't really know like what the promise is. But he's not allowed to like hurt her or something. It seems.
Calling your adult son your baby boy is just so ick, in my humble opinion. Like if I was dating a guy and his mom called him her baby boy still, and we were in our 30s, even 20s, I would be so gone so fast.
Right.
I've learned that lesson more than once the hard way. Flee.
Yeah. And so then like Orion's giving her sass, Darcy bites back, and Stella is shocked that Orion would let Darcy talk to Stella that way. And Orion's like, I don't control her. She does what she likes. And then Stella's like, I would swap you for Clara in a heartbeat. And then he's like, I would trade you for Dad. And then she starts crying. It's like all very dramatic. And then she's like, you're the reason he killed himself. And Orion's like, he didn't do that. Like, it's ridiculous.
Oh, man.
So whatever. After she's gone, Orion's like, the whole thing's an act. Don't listen to her for whatever reason. And then Orion's like, hey, I'm not going to let you forget about this whole corridor situation. Like, why were you hiding? Blah, blah, blah. And they start walking together. Darcy's like, well, I was looking for fresh air, and then I heard Lionel. I didn't want to be found wandering his home. And Orion's like, actually, yeah, good call. So they confirm with each other that Darcy now knows how Lionel treats his son, and Darcy's like, it doesn't excuse the way he treats us. They both agree on that, but like Orion's like, let's not talk about the heirs. They already give me a freaking headache. Orion also tells Darcy to stay away from Stella because she's just like a black-hearted woman. His dad actually died in a magical accident. He was there when it happened, so like wherever she got this hole he killed himself from, who knows. But finally they reach like this long hall that leads into a courtyard, and it has a pool, it has a barbecue, it has a bar. It's really cute. And Orion grabs them both a drink, and then he just turns to her and he goes, "Have I told you how exceptionally beautiful you look tonight, Darcy?" This is the first time he said her name. They do flirt a little bit, but she's like freaking out. And he tells her he has something for her. It ends up being the blue coil of hair that Seth took from her. That Seth made out of her hair. It's the like bracelet.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Orion gives it back to Darcy. And he kind of gets really cute here. He goes, "I want you to know I believe you would have gotten this back when you were ready, but I took a lot of pleasure in retrieving it for you all the same." And it is not lost on her that Fae like don't fight battles for other Fae. And he says that, and then he just starts stripping. Like,
and now we're naked.
Let me take my clothes off. So he strips down to his boxers. She's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he was like, "I hate parties, but you know what I do love? I love swimming." And he gets into the pool. And he is like down there for a while. Like he doesn't resurface for like an uncomfortable period of time. So she goes over to the side of the pool to lean over, like, what the heck happened? And as she does this, he breaches the surface, he grabs her, and he pulls her down. So she's now drowning.
Romance, baby.
Romance. And then he like pushes her from behind, but then she goes down to her knees and somehow starts to breathe. So she's in this like large rectangular pocket of air carved out by magic that Orion got. So that they're at the bottom of the pool now. And he joins her, and he starts to say that up there are 1,000 reasons we can't be together. I'm bound by so many rules I could waste the rest of your evening to tell you them. And Darcy's like, "Skip them." And then they kiss like a lot.
They go hard at the bottom
Yeah.
of that pool in that little air pocket.
Yeah. It does get spicy. It's not like super spicy, and like nothing really happens other than the kiss and like light touching. But they both basically like agree like this has to be a one-time thing. We can never do this again.
Never.
And they have to go back up, and he's like, "Are you angry at me for bringing you here?" And she was like, "No." And he goes, "You know this is how it has to be. Blue." And he calls her Blue, and then she's like, "I don't think you should call me Blue anymore. After all, it's not blue."
Because her hair color is still undecided. We haven't wrapped up that plot yet.
So they go back up, and she starts to fix her makeup. Orion mentions that his sister used to love this place, and they used to come here as kids. Darcy asks what happened to her, because she's also kind of trying to figure out what happened to Clara O'Brien. There is a plot. So he said she got caught up with bad people, and Darcy's like, "The Ocruxes?" And Orion like just doesn't answer. But he tells her not to go looking for trouble. Then he asks if she'd like to see Clara. So he brings her up to these row of photos and shows her the picture of 4 Acroxes, the other counselors, and their heirs all with them. He hands her the picture, and she feels like energy. And then a few more people were there, but then it was Orion's mother, Stella, and a girl with mousy brown hair and freckles, which was Clara. That photo, it turns out, was taken the night they vanished. So Darcy asks again what happened that night. Did they leave the party together? And he doesn't respond, and then she says, "Lance." First time she called him Lance, too. And he's like, "Yeah, no, you don't get to call me that if I can't call you Blue. Obviously, like, I can't handle you calling me Lance." Because when he called her Darcy, she was like, "I love it when you say my name." And he's now like, "I love it when she says my name."
Yeah.
So, no first names. Or colors.
Or colors. What Is he just calling her Vega at this point?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So he leaves her all grumpy, and then she grabs the picture again because she felt energy when she touched it. So she turns it over, she removes the back pane, and she finds another one of Astrom's tarot cards. We are making progress. It's the devil. Now, again, I don't really know what the devil means. Probably not good things. But on the back of it, there's more words. Do not underestimate the beast who shadows you. He is the ultimate power, ruling over your lives and the lives of many others. Beware of his lies. The answer to your question will be revealed on the lunar eclipse, but when finding the truth, don't let the shadows take you. Okay, so she resolves that she needs to go find Tory like immediately. The lunar eclipse is only 1 week away and it coincides with the reckoning. Now, I know we haven't talked about the reckoning in a long time because it's too far off in the plot. It's like still weeks away. But this is like when they get decided if
Isn't
they're
that like
gonna
the midterm?
survive. I think it must be the midterm.
Is either the midterm or like the end of
Yeah, but
term?
like some people die or some people like don't make it.
Yeah. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah. Now, as Darcy has just found out about the card and everything, we're going to switch to Orion's perspective. He's leaving her all grumpy about the fact that, like, next time he'd see Darcy, they would be back to normal, and which to Orion means, apparently, smothering the fiery pit of longing that raged inside of him every time he was around her. Like, giving mate vibes. But he stops outside of Lionel's room quietly because he needs to eavesdrop on Stella and Lionel. Now, he knew that Lionel was not um, honorable, faithful to Catalina.
Mm-hmm.
And Orion kind of figured like he was probably sleeping, but now he's eavesdropping on their sexy time to eavesdrop on like what's going on. Um, Gross, but he only has a week until the eclipse, and so he needs to like hear what's going on because he's worried now. Um, Here's what he ends up hearing. Lionel says we chose poorly last time. Stella says we should have used Lance. And he says, you don't really mean that. He's got some use, and at least he's fulfilling his purpose without complaint these days. My son fights me at every turn. Then more sex. And then he says, I won't make the same mistakes twice. This time we'll pick the right Fae. He says he's had enough of that and leaves. And he's like thinking about this thing that can't happen again. He'd give like anything to go through time and stop it from happening. He'd tear Lionel's head off before he forced him to guard his son. He'd save Clara from her suffering and the shadows which had consumed her. We have no idea what event they're talking about.
No. Neither does Lance, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
No one knows what they're talking about, or why it matters, or why the eclipse is important, or what it had to do with Clara.
Yeah, like Lance is just kind of giving us a little bit of information, but what we do know is that something can't happen at the eclipse, and that's next week. And they're planning on doing it again. And then also, he's thinking about how he kissed the Savage King's daughter, and his Libra instincts were screaming at him like a disappointed parent, and he keeps trying to forget about her. So he like immediately finds Darius though, and he's like, "We need to talk." He tells them what he overheard and asks Darius if they like know who he's choosing. Like it's a different person they're choosing for something. We don't know what. Sounds like they haven't yet. Darius is wondering if they could actually succeed, and Orion's like, it's impossible to say. After what happened last time, I would have thought they'd never want to attempt it again. We don't know what is it. Both of them, though, are battling with the fact that they're saving the Vegas twins' ass to protect them from Darius's father, and acknowledge that they're kind of in the same place. Like, Orion can tell that Darius, like, is sort of trying to protect Tory.
Yeah.
And Darius can tell that Orion is trying to protect Darcy, and Orion's like, oh my god, we're having the same situation right now about the twins. Darius tells Orion that he's thinking about how much easier it'll be when they're both gone, and apparently Orion's horoscope told him that he'd be ruled by Venus today, which is apparently like the horniest planet.
It sure is.
And also, Mercury is moving into retrograde, so he's all over the place. We love a man who blames his decisions on his horoscope. Bad decision, horoscope. Whatever. And then here's like a bit of the rest of the conversation because it kind of becomes important. So Orion is concerned about where they'll go, like the Vega twins will go, with the nymph situation becoming more volatile. Like they're trying to kick them out of Zodiac Academy, but like there's a nymph situation. If they kick them out, they're going to be on their own, and they don't want the Vega twins to die or anything.
Yeah.
So he's worried about that. And Darius is like, no, we'll have to make sure they go to the mortal realm. The nymphs have no way of traveling there. And also, if Tory and Darcy get like taken by the nymphs will take that power. Which that's a lot of power.
Yeah, an impressive amount of power.
So that's another problem. Darius is saying that the longer they stay, the more control they'll get over their magic and the more threat they pose to him and his brothers. If they don't watch up, they could end up with two naive, savage princesses on the throne and give the nymphs exactly what the kind of unbalance they need to tip the scales of this fight in their favor. So not only is Darius and Orion worried about Tory and Darcy like taking the throne, he's actually kind of worried that they're going to be thrown into ruling a place they know nothing about, and then the nymphs will rule.
Yep.
Like, there is a level of protection there for everybody involved.
Yeah, like, despite the fact the heirs suck ass, they do, at the end of the day, have Solaria's best interests at heart.
Right.
They just go about it the shittiest way possible.
Yeah, exactly. So then Orion's like, well, you think that they could overthrow you? And he's like, no, that's not what I said, but I did feel Roxy's power and I almost lost myself in it. She didn't tire in over 2 hours of wielding a constant stream of powerful fire magic. With brute force, they could pose a challenge. Like, so Darius is acknowledging, like, we might be screwed. And then Orion also kind of hints in his head that he's, like, coped with this whole situation with drinking a lot, and then he like goes and gets drinks. Like he's having 3 or 4 drinks a day, sometimes up to like 6 or 7 every day.
Yeah, he's an alcoholic.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, we'll deal with it tomorrow, but tonight I'm gonna forget everything about everything because he's upset about Darcy and this whole situation.
And he copes with alcohol.
Exactly. So chapter 25, we're going to Tory. Tory just like saw Darius and Lionel go, and at this point she just like wants to leave. But Caleb comes up and grabs her and tells her the unfortunate news that her reprieve from their source arrangement is coming to an end. He pushes her up a wall into a corner to like feed on her, and she's like, wait, would you prefer to work for your meal? And he's like, So she proposes a game. She gets a 2-minute head start on him to hide, and if he can find her within 15 minutes, then he gets to eat. He's not allowed to use magic or super speed.
Okay.
And he's like, I like this. So we are on. So, of course, this Tory, this dumbass, starts running around this place, and she eventually ends up in a huge office. Guess whose office?
Daddy Lionel.
And so she's in there and automatically hears footsteps. Of course Lionel is coming, so she dives under the desk and she, like, gets into the back corner of the desk, trying not to be seen. She also realizes pretty quickly that it's not Caleb, it is Lionel. And he is on the phone. So he says a few interesting things. He says, is it done? No, I don't want excuses on this. If you're not capable of executing on the plan, then there's plenty of people ready to take your place. I've already had to deal with a disrespectful heir tonight, and I warn you, I'm not in the mood to tolerate further failure. And she can't tell who's, like, on the other side of this phone call, but he's mad. That's all she hears. Then he leaves. And he does, like, stop briefly thinking he senses something, but it ends up being nothing, and he ends up leaving anyways. Then, as she's about to, like, open it, she realizes she's been, like, biting on her lip and, like, she's drawn blood, which is important because now Caleb has found her in the same office, and it is at the 1-minute mark. So they're kind of, like, staring at each other, and she's like, I can still get away with you in the minute. So she manages to, like, sneak around him, and they start running, and they're, like, super clearly having the time of their lives with
they're
him.
cute.
Yeah, she's just like, hee 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 hee. So they find themselves in this like small poker room, and he does end up using a little bit of magic to like get to her, and she's like, cheater, and he was like, just a bit. And she doesn't mind at all. And then like he starts kissing her. So then he like locks the door with vines, puts a silencing on the like charm on the room, and they go the fuck at it. Whole shebang. Actually, no, like, well, because she had gotten her lip, with the bleeding and stuff, he like sucks that, which is a whole thing. But that's like the only thing they just actually they fuck.
Yeah, they finally break that tension.
Yeah. Um, so then they both like agree that they kind of enjoy playing games with each other, and then he removes the lock on the silent and the silencing charm on the room, and Darius walks in. And he lets Caleb know that the council wants to meet before they leave, and Darcy and Orion are waiting for Tory outside. And Darius immediately knows what just went down. And he looks pissed. And Caleb looks back at him and he's like, well, I'm not done yet. Um, and Tori's kind of wondering about Darius right now too, because she's like, is there some rule about like the heirs not being allowed to like fuck us? Like we're just having fun. Like
Yeah,
chill
she's
out.
got no emotional investment in Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb's just a good time.
Yeah. And so then Caleb feeds off of Tori, and then when Caleb finishes up, he kind of like looks at Darius and is like, lighten up, we were just playing a game, and you have to admit, I got a damn hot prize for winning. Tori then heads back to find Darcy and Orion. Darcy asks like where she's been, and Tori is dismissive and is like, And then Darcy's like, with who? And Tori tells her it's Caleb, and Orion is listening to all of this. And then Darcy's like, bro, what are you doing? And Darcy's like, don't worry, it's fun. Like, we still hate him, but come on, like, look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Orion is just like, can you guys stop talking about this? I don't want to hear about it. So the rest of the heirs come out, and Darius asks Roxy to talk in private. So he takes her away and tells her that she shouldn't have talked to his father like that. He said, like, I diverted his attention, but he's not going to take that kind of attitude from you ever again. She's like, okay. But she's also saying, okay, only because she never plans on seeing this man again. She's like, I'm never coming back here. Screw this guy.
This party was a lie.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming back.
But she does notice blood on his white t-shirt, very clean white t-shirt. And he's like, are you bleeding? And he's like, no. And she's like, you're bleeding. What's going on? And he was like, well, no, like, I'm not bleeding now. And then shakes it off. He walks her back, and as he's doing it, he tells her, like, hey, you know I don't hate you, right? And he's like, these things that I've been doing, like, you know that they're not personal, right? And she's like, is that how you justify it to yourself? That, like, it's not personals, but so you can still treat me like that? And he's like, so you hate me then? And she goes, no. To hate you, I'd have to care about you, and I don't give a shit about you. And he looks like defeated at this point. And then she has to like turn around because she's like, that might have been a lie from me. Like, she cares.
Yeah, she's got something. You have to care a little bit to go through a prank war against someone.
Genuinely.
In my opinion.
Yes. Darcy. So it's the next morning. We are done the party. And now we're back to prank time. Darcy has a horoscope. Good morning, Gemini. The stars have spoken about your day. With an event bringing many people together around you, you'll soon be caught up in the excitement. And rightfully so, too. After so much effort has been put into a project you've been working on, you'll finally find yourself reaping the rewards. If you tread carefully, things will flow smoothly, but one wrong move could incur the wrath of your enemies. Ooh. So as she wakes up, she realizes she's dreaming about Lance. Wait, no, Orion. It's very early, and Darcy and Tory have been up late trying to figure out the situation with Astrom's tarot card to no avail. But she thinks it's the best reason ever to wake up. It is prank time. Her and Tory meet Geraldine at the Pitball pitch. It's like this glimmering silver dome with curved metal walls, and Geraldine lets them in. Tory comes by with her. She's like a little bit late because she hates waking up. But she joins them with Griffin turds. They take them and they rub it all over Max's uniform. And if you forgot, Max has really sensitive skin to the Griffin stuff. So like he gets a really bad reaction. And then Jerry went and did Caleb's crotch with the Griffin turds. After they do that, they head back to the orb for coffee and they sit down and they saw a notification on their atlases. Zodiac Academy has been mentioned in the Celestial Times. So this is an article from Gustav Volpecula, the fox from the party who was sent by Lionel. It is not what they said. This is an entire article about how, like, Tory is a crude and aggressive sex addict and she was like feeling him up the whole time, and that Darcy is insane and she can barely speak and she's like talking to this invisible raven and stuff. It's just like completely slashing them, and about how the heirs should continue to hold strong and that we need someone strong keeping Solaria together.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I like how Tori's like, I don't have a sex addiction. She did fuck someone at the party.
She did. Tory kind of owns it, though.
Yeah, no, she's fine. And things progress from there, but
yeah,
she's a little aghast, while still being like
just a little bit
guilty of that one, just a smidge, not a full addiction. But you did bang someone at this party.
Yeah, she did, which I am in full support of.
Yeah, no, it sounded like a good time.
You go, girl. Okay, so now Tory, she's still not done with like her other situation going on with the gold and Milton's watch and stuff. So she decides to put a very recognizable gold ring set with a row of black onyx through its center and leave a note from a secret admirer to Milton. Sophia, though, figured out how to make it burn after like 2 minutes of it being read, like the letter, so that there was no evidence of it. So just of like the ring of Darius's, it's Darius's ring, and she leaves it for Milton. The note itself says it's from a secret admirer telling him to wear it and she'll like come and find him or something like that. It seems not real, but he's an idiot, so whatever. So then she goes down to breakfast. She exchanges some sass with Darius before sitting down to scroll on Facebook with her headphones. She's basically just like waiting for this whole thing to pay off. And then Marguerite walks in with her pajamas, like flaunting herself in front of Darius. Darius tells her to kick rocks. She's ruining the pregame vibe. Then Milton walks in. And after walking by, Darius notices the ring. And he's like, "Where the fuck did you get that?" Milton's like, "Some girl left it." And Darius is like, "Okay, you said there was a note. Where's the note?" And Milton's like, "Well, it burned. I don't have it." And Darius is like, "Okay, well, you wouldn't mind if I looked in your room then." So he goes up to Milton's room and he finds all the gold. Darius is so upset.
Yeah.
Like, so upset. He was like, "You betrayed me. You're a liar. You're a cheater." And then he goes, "As far as I'm concerned, Milton Hubert is shunned. He doesn't bear relevance. He doesn't matter. He doesn't exist at all. If you're with me, then I suggest you do all the same." And obviously nobody argued with that. Milton is now whimpering. And Darius leaves. He goes into order form and he's blowing massive fireballs in the sky. He's like freaking out.
He's really good at tantrums.
He's so good at tantrums.
Some really top tier tantrums.
Oh my god. And Tori's like, "Okay, I hope Darius never finds out it was me." Okay, it is the night of the Pitball. We have all of our pranks that have the plans have been laid. Yes. And we have a Pitball game to go to. It's our first Pitball game. And so Tory and Darcy obviously very excited about it. Tory is like getting some hassling about her sex addiction. Darcy's being accused of talking to her invisible raven. Whatever. And also, okay, Diego shows up and is totally fine.
Forgot Diego existed.
I know. Well, last we saw Diego he was like, I thought he was going to kill himself halfway through this book. I'm not kidding. I thought we had a suicide upcoming.
Yeah, because he was like, the beanie is gone and he's
He's so upset.
She's sad.
And now he's just like back like nothing happened. They made such a big deal out of it that I thought something was gonna happen.
Yeah.
But whatever. So he's here. I guess he just needed a day or two to get over it. They do find some seats, but Principal Nova comes around and is like, no, we have honorary seats for the Vega twins. And they're like, now we want to stay with Sophia and Diego. And she's like, well, just bring them, whatever. So they go, and now all of the counselors are here because they're all there to watch their sons. And it's like this like awkward, like, okay, now we're around everybody again. Overview of Pitball. The rules are not super clear.
No.
I will say though, I understand Pitball and I think it's a better game than Quidditch is.
Yeah, it had like there's a scoring system and stuff.
Well, there's a scoring system that makes sense.
Yeah.
More sense than
Quidditch.
Anyways, it's the shape of a football field, and then there's like bronze pyramids in each corner with football-sized holes at the top of each one. It's broken up into 4 quadrants, and each quadrant is a color of the element. So you have red, blue, green, and white. And in the middle is this huge circular bronze plate, and the dead center of that was a large pit that was almost 10 feet in wide. And I'm having like a hard time, but that's what it is. There's 2 people from each element on each team. 1 offense, 1 defense, and there's also 2 pit keepers for a total of 10 people on each team. So the pit keepers guard the pit from the opposing team to stop them from getting any balls in. And then in each quadrant, I believe each element like fights and like attacks each other, and then you have like a defensive one and an offensive one, and they try to get balls in or they try to get the other people out. There's 1-minute rounds or 5-minute rounds, sorry. If they don't get it into a ball yet, the ball explodes and you just have to accept the risk of it potentially exploding. And then at the end of each round, they calculate the points of the ball that got into the pit, and if it gets into the pit, you get a point and the round ends, but it's also including all of the guys who got out. And in order to get someone out, I think you just have to tackle them or something.
Yeah, I can't remember what the out thing was. Pitball, I think, gets fleshed out further in the books too, because they do it more. Or that was in the Dark Fae series.
Okay.
Because they're really into Pitball.
Okay. Yeah. It's very violent, and that's kind of all you need to know. It's like intense.
Yeah.
So they're playing the Starlight Academy, and the Starlight Academy is another team. A guy named Quentin is their captain, and then there's cheerleaders on both sides. Apparently they're awesome. Marguerite and Kylie are both on the cheer team for Zodiac. The ref is Professor Prestos, who is actually Tory's liaison, but Tory never goes to her liaison because they have like an agreement. And she's like, hey, Darcy, you should try that with Orion. And Darcy's like, I don't want to do that. I want to see Orion. But also maybe I should try and get a better arrangement because I don't think I can see him. And she's like battling with that.
Yeah. Don't fuck the teacher.
Yeah. So anyways, lots of fighting, lots of magic. Try and get ball in the pit and whatever. They play for like hours. They have like a 1-hour first half and then a 1-hour second half. So we have Max during the game. He is struggling and he's visibly in quite a bit of pain. This is like confirmed in his point of view. He's like trying to douse himself with water while he's on the pitball field, and it's like only a bit of relief, and then he slips in the water during a play and he like ends up getting himself kicked out. So that's losing them a point. So Orion starts yelling at him, and Max is like, someone fucked with my jersey, and he accuses the Starlight Academy as being the one to do it. And Orion's like, don't make those kinds of accusations. You either have to suck it up and play it through or stay benched. And Max is like, I'm going to suck it up. Because he sees his dad in the stands and he wants to make his dad proud.
Because he actually likes his parents.
Yeah.
His parent.
It's not the stepmom, yeah. Tory and Darcy, though, in Chapter 30, they're enjoying this game. The karma that the heirs are experiencing, top tier, they're having fun.
Yeah, no magic required. Just have a good time.
Yeah.
Wit.
Now, Washer bursts out. We haven't seen Professor Washer in a while. But he bursts out, freaking the fuck out to Principal Nova. And he says, the cards gave me a vision, Principal. Everyone needs to, like, get out of here. Something bad's gonna happen. And, okay, to be fair about what they do next, out of all the credible sources I can think of, I'm not putting Washer anywhere near the top.
No, especially in the thing he's fully admitted to sucking at.
Yeah, so I don't blame everybody when they dismiss him. The only reason that we probably understand that something bad is about to happen because we're like 90% of the way through the book at this point, and we haven't had a climax, and the foreshadowing is
hard. It's going
very
hard.
clear, very clear. Something bad's gonna happen.
Also, to note, Orion is the coach of the Pitball team.
He is,
and he's Oliver Wood. He's committed.
Yeah.
He is.
Oh, he loves. You can tell Orion is like playing his glory days. Like he didn't make it or something happened when he was younger that caused him to not be able to play at a very elite level. And he's like reliving the glory days.
Yeah, that does get explained later. But just know that he is a menace.
Yeah. So we do actually, in the next chapter, chapter 31, we get blessed with Orion's rage as he's coaching them through halftime. He is
it's a red line.
He is pissed about how they're playing. The 4 heirs tell him like what's going on. Max is like, I have a rash. Caleb's like, I'm being harassed in the stands about liking Pegasuses because they have these blow up sex Pegasus dolls now everywhere, and they're like bouncing them around. You know, like when they do at hockey games where they send the ball. It's basically that. And then Seth has fleas, and Darius is like, Milton just betrayed me, and now I'm pissed. And Orion's like, how could this all happen at once? I don't understand. As if they couldn't just put like 2 pieces like, honestly, the fact that they can't put this together, that all 4 of them got severely pranked a couple of weeks after Tory and Darcy got pranked by them. Nobody can.
None of the. And I like it because, like, I don't know if it's necessarily right here, but like Orion's totally rooting for those twins too. He's like, "You go, girls."
I know. But what we are really happy about during halftime is that Jerry, who is one of the players on the Pitball team, we knew this because Jerry asked them to come watch her play. She's getting praise because she is the only one holding this team together right now. So Orion gives them a pep talk. Did you want to say one of the lines that you found?
It was on the first page, and it was, did you get a BJ from a horsey? Did you get a horn stuck up your ass? And that was just beautiful.
What a quote. They got a motivational speech during halftime. And they're all like hyped up to go back out after halftime, and as they head back out, they hear chanting, and it's, you can't scare the heirs don't care. You can't scare the heirs don't care. And Darius is listening to that, being like, if only that were true, because obviously I do care a lot, but at least he acknowledges that. The first step is understanding your feelings.
Yeah.
But we do still have 10 minutes before the team is ready to get back out on the pitch, and during halftime is the only time where players are allowed to regenerate their magic. So Darius brings gold to the game so that he can recharge in the locker room. Max heads to the cheerleaders because they have pep. So he goes to the Starlight Academy cheerleaders, 2 birds in 1 stone. He regenerates his emotions, and now the cheerleaders are all pepped out. And so Darius also tells Caleb to go to his source to get blood and regain it. And we do know Seth needs to run under the moon, so he still has 3/4 of his power, but he's not getting more. Darius, though, is having a bit of a rude awakening with this Caleb and Darcy situation, as well as this mocking situation. He's never been mocked this much in his life. He doesn't like it. But he's also like, well, it's different that I mocked and bullied other people because I had to do it. Whereas when it's happening to me, they don't have to do it to me, so I don't deserve it.
He's perfect and doesn't deserve that treatment.
Yeah. He also seems really mad that Caleb is going over to Tory, especially now that Tory is kind of willingly allowing Caleb to feed on her, and it kind of looks intimate. The man's jealous. The man's pissed about Milton. The man's getting mocked. He's very broody and upset.
He's having a hard time.
So this is, I feel like I started thinking about it more during the party, but now we're getting a lot of insight into the pull that Darius feels to Tory, and now the Elysian mates conversation comes up with these two as well for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a pull there.
There's something.
Yeah. Also, before halftime finishes, he has this situation with Quentin. Apparently, they do not like each other, and Darius feels very smug about the fact that Quentin is going to be nothing more than like a middle ranking position in some backwater town, while Darius is going to be a counselor, and he feels very egotistical about that.
Oh, Caleb's catchphrase comes in.
You'll have to tell me what it is. So they start playing again, and they start making their way back. He starts thinking about how pissed he is at the Starlight Academy for sabotaging Max. And while they're definitely making their way back in the standings here, it was like 18-2 or something. They were down by quite a few points.
It was bad, yeah.
And so Darius, they start gaining some momentum and start climbing their way back, but Darius is realizing that it's very possible they might lose. And Starlight Academy is supposed to be the easy game to start out their season. This is not supposed to be competition. They should be wiping the floor with them, and it is a mess. So now, Darcy is sitting there, and at this point, they're like 5 points down, and it's getting towards the end of the game. We have one more round left, and that means in order to win, because they only have one round, if they just got the ball into the pit right off the bat, it would only be 1 point, and they couldn't win. So they have to get players out, right? They have to get at least 6 players out so that they can win. And they're kind of excited. Even though Tory and Darcy totally sabotaged this whole situation, they're getting really into it, and they kind of hope that Zodiac wins. They're getting into the pride.
Yeah, they got school spirit, and Jerry's on the team.
Jerry
did set herself up for failure in this game, though. And
yeah.
she knew that.
Yeah, and they're also, like, kind of feeling a little bit guilty about it. They're like, oh. But just barely. They
a smidge.
Every time they start to feel it, they're like, no, they deserved it. Which they did, so...
Yeah. In front of their parents.
Yeah. They do get super close to winning. Caleb doesn't see like an air sentry coming in, which is the offensive player of the air element. He brings him down. The ball gets tossed to the pit by the end of the team, and they end up losing the round by 1 point, losing the game. So everyone's bummed. We're back to Tory's perspective. The Celestial Councils and their spouses leave immediately. They're just like gone. They're disappointed in their kids. They don't want to talk to them after. They don't want to stay for medals. Very unsportsmanlike behavior. Whatever. The Vega twins are asked to present the medals. Jerry won the Fae of the match, and so they get to really like celebrate her. And then they had to do the honors for the Starlight Academy. The whole team ends up coming up, ending with Quentin. He tosses Darcy like a little wink and gave Tory a close to her butt touchy hug.
Ew.
And she looks over and notices Darius, and he is just like, he's basically smoking at this point. He's pissed. Then Quentin, and we don't know much about Quentin at this point, but he seems to be something relevant. And I don't know if that's his first or his last name. I assumed last name, but whatever.
I don't know.
Interesting. He starts talking shit. He's like, to the girls, is like, turns out the celestial heirs aren't all that impressive. Maybe you two should reconsider the idea of taking up your crown. And then Tory and Darcy are joking, and they're like, haha, you know what? Maybe we should. I would like a crown. That sounds like it would look good on me. Darius then sends a shot of heated energy to Quentin and is catapulted halfway across the pitch. He's so dramatic.
Very dramatic. Tantrum.
And then he comes in and snarls at Tory's face. And now, you know what? They're not joking. They're kind of like, you know what? Yeah. And Seth wants confirmation. Hey, are you really wanting to take back the claim to your throne or the throne? And they go, it's not our claim. It's our birthright. And this now escalates. They have to fight for it. There's threats happening here. So now the whole stadium is So quiet. You can't hear anything. Darcy and Tory are freaking out. They have not been trained in combat. They do
Yeah.
not know how to use their power. This escalated way too quickly. But the heirs start coming towards them and they're like touching at this point and they feel like so much power. So as Darius and Seth comes towards them, Darcy and Tory like put out power and a huge combined power shoots out from them and it combines like all four elements somehow and it shoots the four heirs backwards. So now the heirs are like,
oh no,
what was that? But for some reason, Fae fighting, it's one-on-one. So now Seth and Darcy are fighting one-on-one. Darius and Tory are fighting on one-on-one, which kind of makes no sense because they could have beat them together anyways. But now they're doing their Fae respect. They're having the fight. Now, they lose. Tory and Darcy cannot handle these two individuals. So they throw the two girls into the pit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're down there. And then in the pit, Seth and Darius once again put like a big shield, like a air shield over top of it so they can't get out. They said, if you want to get out of there, you'll have to fight your way through our magic, which they can't do. We know that. Yeah. So now they're in this pit. They realize that they're definitely going to be trying to take the throne, like just out of pure spite. This has nothing to do with trying to make the world a better place. This has nothing to do with anything.
No.
Screw these guys. We're taking the throne.
Not a birthright. Not because they want to be in charge, just because it's spite. And I respect that.
Exactly. They realize that nobody's coming to help them. They can't use magic to get out of this thing. People are like literally starting to leave. But do you remember when Washer came in freaking out, being like, hey, something's gonna happen?
You've got like 20 pages left.
Yeah, this is the climax of the novel. Darcy and Tory hear a pitchy scream in the distance, followed by screams echoing in the stadium. They kind of try to see what's going on, but like they can't figure it out. Everyone's just literally panicking. A thick pocket of darkness seeps across the force field that trapped them in the pit, and it moved like a living thing, the thickening cloud crackling with a strange energy. They realize that this is a nymph, and they now realize that it can mobilize the magic in the air. So the shield shudders, the nymph lands right before them. It was a tall, twisted body of long limbs, serrated teeth, and curling horns. They start trying to get up this pit. They're trying to get out, they're running, blah, 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 and they barely do it. Like at one point, the nymph tries to bring them back in, and then the other pulls them back out, and they get out. They look around, and what they see is just pure chaos. There's like 30 or 40 nymphs blocking everyone's escape, and the two of them try to use their combined magic again, but like it's not enough. So they're getting overwhelmed. Darius comes in as a dragon, sending hellfire everywhere. Orion's on the back. He does like a cool flip off, and he's got a cool sword, and he starts stabbing them. Even like the Pegasus are in formation. They're blinding nymphs with glitter in their little like flying. Jerry is in her Cerberus form, and she's like doing her three-headed dog thing. Everybody's just like fighting. Darcy notices that Orion's sword from across the thing as they're fighting gets knocked out of his hand. And so, like, he is at the mercy of this nymph right now, and Darcy is freaking out because
that's her man.
That's her man.
That's the teacher she's not allowed to fuck.
So Darcy freaks out, and a burning energy fills her with the heat of a million stars burrowing into her core. She says, my body felt as though it was about to lift off the ground with the sheer power of it as a ripping sensation raced across my shoulder blades. This line of fire explodes from Darcy's body like a writhing winged creature of the sharpest blue and darkest red, and the nymph exploded in a coil of black smoke. So this is power, and we don't know what it is, but it can kill a nymph, and like not a lot of things can kill nymphs. So Orion was like, hey, what was that? And she's like, I don't know. I literally just got here 3 weeks ago. I don't know what the fuck that was. I was kind of going to ask you that. They do notice Max and Caleb is also fighting off 2 nymphs, but they're impersonating Fae, so they kind of like look like they're just fighting Fae. But they also look like they're just like one step away from losing. It's a huge mess. A huge thing of metal plummets towards them, and Darcy was able to like create her air shield again.
Yay!
They're getting good at the air shields. Orion grabs her hand and gives her energy and power into her veins. So, like, grabs Darcy's hand, gives her power to make the air shield unbreakable. And they kind of like look at each other. And Orion's like, well, at least you trust me. Because, like, in order to power share in this world, you have to really trust the other person.
Yep.
And that's just proof that they do. And Darcy's like, wait, do I trust you?
It's too late to start questioning that.
Right?
You just did the thing that proved it.
Yeah. So Orion's like, we're getting out of here. And Darcy's like, no, I'm not leaving without Tory. We need to find Tory. Back to Tory. So Darius is in dragon form. He is surrounded by 8 nymphs. So Tory decided, you know what? I know I hate him. Like, trust me, I hate him. Guys, I hate him.
She does not like that man.
Don't even ask me if I like him because I don't.
She hates him.
But she also has this desperate ache in her chest, and she just can't bear for them to take him. But, like, not here. Anywhere else it would be fine, but not here because I don't like him.
But right now.
But there's a desperate ache that
right
I can't bear to lose, but just here. And so Darius is getting overwhelmed. She is now freaking out. So now she has power, and it is described, flames lick their way out of my body, swarming over my flesh until they danced right before my eyes in a mix of blood red and lightning blue. The feel of them was electrifying. It sounds like the same exact power. She also burned the nymph. She then notices Diego get thrown to the ground, so she gets Sophia on her Pegasus back to take him away. She, like, coerces Sophia to shift and coerces them to be taken away because they won't go.
Yeah.
But, like, they're about to die, so they're like, get out of here. Darius now comes back over. Now they're fighting together. Eventually, a nymph gets on Darius's back in his dragon form and drives its probes into his shoulder blades. She, like, looks at him in the eye. She's full of dread. He roars with agony. It's kind of like a bit of a moment because she goes and kills the nymph after he did that. And then, like, there's more nymphs coming, and then Darius, like, breathes fire in them, and then he's literally exhausted. So she wraps her arms around him. He turns back into Fae form. They both fall, like, from exhaustion, and they're on top of each other. He is bleeding everywhere, specifically in his neck. She starts, like, screaming for help because she doesn't think Darius is going to make it. She's, like, feeling his heart slow down, and she, once again, I don't care.
Like him.
I don't care. But somehow she wasn't sure if she could survive if she lost him here. But
she doesn't like him.
We don't like him. No.
No.
Never.
Don't ask her about it. She has no feelings.
Never. So Darius is dying. Darcy is still with Orion, and Orion starts to, like, he's like, oh. And she's like, hey, what happened? And Orion's like, Darius is in trouble. So they keep striking down nymphs. Then they see the nymphs start to retreat. We don't actually know why. We don't know, like, they're just like, okay, battle's over. So they find Tory and Darius. Tory begs Orion to heal Darius. And Orion, like, needs more power. And immediately Tory's like, take my power. And we're like, okay. And so then Orion looks at her. And all he says is, you. You. ... And then doesn't finish the sentence. So maybe that's a mate thing. Maybe he's realizing that something's happening. I don't know. But Darcy and Tory start discussing how they both used this crazy red and blue fire, and everybody's like, yeah, we don't know what that means. Darius gets up, very tired, and is like, well, you guys just proved your worth, because now we need you to kill nymphs. You guys have this power.
You're the only ones that can.
Right? Orion ends this book saying, well, they attacked the children of the most elite Fae in Solaria. So my guess is the nymphs just declared war on our kind.
I thought we were already at war. I thought they were actively murdering. As far as you're aware, they already killed your king.
And that was a while
That
ago.
was like 20 years ago. And then now they've also been attacking you.
Yeah, but now maybe it's like open war.
Yeah. Maybe they care now. Before they were like, they're just
Yeah.
killing the low level,
Yeah.
boring Fae.
And I don't know. I'm here now. I need to know what happens.
Yeah.
I kind of starting to care about characters that I absolutely despise.
Like, I'm not gonna say you're gonna ever like any of them 100%, but they have redeeming quality somewhere in there.
I don't even know what to rate it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
why did I rate this? Such a good question.
This was I didn't rate it yet. I haven't even been on Goodreads yet to do this. But now it seems as though Tory and Darcy both have Elysian mates, which seems so interesting to me. Maybe one of them decides not to. I don't know. I don't know if you can just have like two people find their Elysian mates and then still have 7 books afterwards. You know what I mean?
You're giving them so much credit on how quickly they would get from point A to point B, though. Like, so much credit.
Oh my god. But then how is there still 7 books? There's still like 15. There's still so many books because there's the.
Because they also, like, they just get thicker.
It makes no sense to me.
They just did.
How this is not maximum a trilogy is beyond me.
And like this one still has normal size font, at least. Because at some point, I think it's like around 7 we go away from normal size font eventually. You can't see this on camera, but it's tiny.
It's tiny.
You went from like an 11 to an 8.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for our book recap of Zodiac Academy, book number 2, Ruthless Fae, part 2. Thank you for being here. Please give us a subscribe, a like, a follow.
Yeah, come join us for the reckoning next.
Bye.
Bye.